Got it. What's up, everybody? The Alchemist, and today we have a special guest, which none of you have met before, Vadir. And I've been talking with Vadir for a little while now about radionics, and honestly, I was blown away once I started hearing about his experiences and everything else that's come along with just getting to know him more. Yeah, if Vadir, if you'd like to introduce yourself about kind of your magic and just kind of what got you all involved in this, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in the entire magical field for well over 3 decades and been especially working in the technology field for the vast part of my life. And I've been involved with magic for several orders, European orders, some Asian traditions, some North American connections, but mostly Europe, Central Europe. And yeah, and so I've been interested in the fusion of technology and shamanism, technology and magic. And as I saw what you have been doing with the radionics boxes, which is in due line with a tradition that comes partially from Europe. And well, it was basically taken on by someone called Charles Cosimano, who goes under Uncle Chucky. And I thought that's really interesting. Yeah? And so we got in touch. And since then, I think we have a very, very vivid exchange, haven't we?
Oh, definitely. When it came to because I've known you for a little while now, and I've had different rituals I've done for you, and being able to hear about your experiences on the before and after, as well as during the rituals I've done, as well as the different radionic experiments that we both kind of tested the exact same experiment to see what our results would be. I just knew you were the real deal. You were really tapping into these forces and being also to have the vision to be able to see, how things work and ways to make things work better for you. And I just felt it would be almost, it's like a need for someone to come on
Mm.
here to explain their experiences with something such as the vampire box, because it's definitely the most simplest when it comes to how do you use it, as well as kind of beginners, but just how you can have different versatilities with using it and how to know when it's working for you versus how, is this working, is this not? And yeah, hearing all your past examples of experiments to be able to see these things manifest for you,
Mm.
uh, I mean, they match my codex exactly. And I just kind of wanted to give you the floor to kind of express how the vampire box has been used, and like how it's been able to help you, because I know we've had two different types of vampire boxes on our website, and kind of the differences too that you noticed, and I've also noticed as well when using the different ones. So yeah, anywhere you want to go with that, but yeah, I would just love to hear all your thoughts and everything about that.
Sure. So maybe we have to differentiate between two things. One is vampirism, and the other thing is radionics. And why does it go well together? So
Hmm.
if you look into the story of fusing both, like radionics and magic, it brings us to a lot of interesting places. And so maybe beyond those spooky ones that we all know about, where people try to open wormholes, for example, to other dimensions, there is this Franz Bardon who basically wrote a book called Frabber to the Magician, and in it they talk about a Freemasonic order of the Golden Century, I guess. Basically, like 100 members, but only 99 humans, and one is basically the devil himself. And if you go a bit deeper, you find that Franz Bardon was a stage magician. He had good contacts to the Fraternitas Saturni and to some other orders, and he got more some stories, and he was more a poser. So, but a lot of his information comes from real sources, let's say it like this. And there was this tool they called the Tapper phone. This is where the name comes from, which could be used to influence people, for example, in baneful ways on distance. And one of those things to influence would be to kill someone with a heart attack. Another thing could be to basically, partially through the help of a medium in this novel, to remotely hypnotize them. So that was interesting, right? And so there has been indeed a lot of research been done by the Russians and the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, but also before, basically in the German Reich. It has been, a lot of research has been done, actually, in also interesting places like Italy, much overlooked, in America, of course. And this fusion between magic and technology has been looked into very deeply, and of course also all sorts of governmental institutions, right? So you name all the three-letter agencies, for sure they have been using it. Now, that's basically the idea is to have an effect on distance that cannot be traced, right? So that's the first part. Now, if
Right.
you look into the whole idea of magic, magic basically means that I have a change in reality based on my will. That's at least how Aleister Crowley defined it. But we could define it a bit more abstract. I come to this in a second. But vampirism basically means that you vampirize the life force out of something. And that something could be another human. This is where a lot of those stories come from. So for example, our friend Andy Blackwood talks a lot about this when he basically said that he has a very good explanation about that there is this being that seems to be appearing every 1,000 years or so, and manifest itself to some groups. And one of those groups was the Golden Dawn, and Bram Stoker must have taken those ideas, right? And so what we see is an emergence of some kind of, let's call them intelligences, the human-like intelligences that seem to be able to transcend death to one way or the other, at least partially. We seem to have technology that is able to cross bridges with until now unknown physical abilities. You know, there's this old saying that every technology that is far enough advanced is indistinguishable from magic, right? And
Yeah.
so if we talk about now the vampire box, what I find this interesting is it reverses the effect. It basically pulls something. The idea is usually like in radionics, this is what I was interested in very long time. You basically create a connection, and it can be maybe a bit in vulgar forms called a kind of radio, a wave connection, but that's not it. It's more like that you open indeed a connection to someone or to something. And Charles Cosimano came up with the idea of the vampire box, right? And so in one of his very early writings, he had a very primitive scheme, and he explained how he overcame a mortal disease and got healed more or less, or got stable for the rest of his life.
Mhm.
And he used a kind of input output plate mechanism, and then a kind of very simplified transformer. That was his first thing. It was amplifying the signal and purifying it. He put a kind of crystal in the middle. And so that basically the simplified form of the first vampire machine that exists. There's a great archive, by the way, on Odyssey, where someone archived all of his works. Uh, Basically means that you take energy from somewhere, you give it a different speed, a translation, so to speak, like a transformer that basically gets rid of amperage or wattage and then increases the voltage. And the same thing is now happening here. And through that, the energy gets sucked out of it's like a funnel effect in water, right? The energy gets sucked out of whatever is on the input plate and goes into wherever you want it. So that's interesting because you also have the purification element in there. And so purification is a kind of crystal, right? Where basically you again have an electromechanic interference that purifies what comes out. And this has been extended now by some people, and I think you're using amplifiers, which are doing in many ways the very same thing. And I've seen some radionics devices of, let's say, different origin. And I've seen one of your latest, and that was eye-opening to me in terms of I used it, and there was immediately not, as you would expect, a kind of energetic link, but a sympathetic link. And
Mm,
that was the mind-blowing thing for me.
wow. So, like the other machines kind of had a little different taste to it, and these new machines, do they seem like they have more intelligence, or could you elaborate a little bit more about that?
I'm still exploring it, right? But I believe that the new machines that you have, that they are basically connecting you to someone, right? The best way to explain it would be there are some people you meet, and there is then a kind of synergy, and the synergy is either there or it's not there. You start liking someone, or someone doesn't like you. And this now there could be a simple transaction. Let's assume you go into a diner. In the diner, you buy a burger. Now, this burger, the waiter doesn't like you, right? Boom, you get the burger, right? It's a deal. You pay money, you get the burger, everything's fine. You go to the same diner, another waiter or waitress, and there's this magic. There is this liking. There is this, oh, nice. And you start talking about the weather. You get the burger, maybe a few fries on top, right? Maybe a question, would you like a refill? Even although there's no refill, you get the point, right? There is this kind of sympathy where someone starts doing things for you, versus the other is a transaction. So with the other boxes that I have seen, there was the transaction. It worked, it's clean, but it's not really what you want. What you want is a kind of sympathetic link to the thing on the input plate that gives you the energy. So let's assume you work with someone and that someone was very unfair to you in the past. And you put that someone onto the machine, and suddenly there is a change in that person. The person suddenly wants to work with you, wants to be in your vicinity, does everything you wish, a total change of behavior. Does it make it a bit more clear?
Yeah, yeah. So one's kind of alters the perception of whatever you're pulling from into your favor versus the other one is a draining of the battery, but nothing involved with you in that. So there's no string attached, basically. It's just the
I mean,
transaction of it.
right, I mean, both drains the energy of something or someone.
Yes.
But what
And that's,
but what happens is
go ahead.
thing. What happens is that the new machines that you have, they make them happy to do it and give you more out of their own will, as they think. But this is just because the machines are so deeper into their subconscious mind that it basically convinces them that giving you energy is the best thing they could do. And with the others, it's just like, oh, I get your energy, done. I turn off the machine, I don't get the energy any longer.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Because I've definitely have different boxes. I mean, here's our newest one here, the advanced vampire box, which this thing so far, I've only done one experiment with it and I'm gonna keep at it basically because I'm gonna build up, a whole entire before and after. And it might be taking longer than what I might have thought. But
Mm.
it's kind of like those I'm gonna grab it. Advanced vampire boxes. These we don't sell these anymore, but basically, you know,
Yeah.
all four of these would equal equivalent to one of the regular small black boxes. And then this bigger box over here just seems like it's like two of these together plus more, because you're talking about that link and everything along those lines about
Yeah.
like you tap in. Like I noticed when I would work with, I had someone that was causing some unnecessary baloney. And after putting it on, I've noticed they're extremely kind. They're just super
Yeah.
nice and everything is good and positive going forward. And it's almost like you put a hit in pulling out all the BS in their life or making them have to go through seeing that they're being an unfair reject, basically, and like doing things just still out of a stupid place of ego. And it almost puts them in check to kind of change as a person. So you're kind of doubling
Mm.
up. You are helping yourself. And in theory, you could be helping them out by pulling out that extra bullshit energy that then is transformed, that then you're able to use for yourself, whether it's just getting that energy back or giving it to a spirit and be able to manifest stuff, like using Santolak, for instance. You could be
Yes.
giving yourself money while the person on there is also being changed into someone that's going to help you be an asset to you getting money instead of a detriment.
You're right. I think you say something very important. First of all, those machines, this machine with the four input plates that you call the advanced vampire box, it has one suction mechanism, right? So
Yeah.
when you put four different people on it, it's not that you get from everyone the same force. What you get is basically a quarter of the force from everyone, depending also how you concentrate on what you want to have out. Your new machine basically has not only a super strong amplifier, but I think seven different circuits of filtration and refiltration. So that's a huge difference. And I think the idea of taking energy somewhere from somewhere and giving it to another place is all this humanity. I mean, look at the ideas. Look at Achilles. It's a very good example where basically, and people started sacrificing things in his tomb to him in order to get the favor of a person
Yeah.
who was a human, who was a man, a fighter, a warrior, and then basically became not deified. He was not in any pantheon, but they had the notion that he became something immortal, something powerful, and that by giving this something immortal that is between the mortals and the gods energy, you do them a favor, and the idea is then that of a transaction, which of course it's a total different bargain than being just a docile person and doing everything that someone from an institution or religion tells you have to do. You
Yeah.
can't compare those words. And now, basically, when I look into what you do with giving it to another, for example, to a being, or you could put energy of someone you don't like and put it into someone you like. You could basically put it in a pet, right? And you think that this colleague that you don't like, the energy of this colleague is better in my dog, right? All possible. So it's basically the same transfer. And so the whole point of this, though, is going a bit deeper. Vampirism, in a way, is a kind of predatory approach to life itself, because that's what life is. There's no life without predation.
Yeah.
Even the most hardcore vegan will, in the very end, eat something that has died, even if it's just a plant. Although you have frutarians, and even them eat something that is still alive, a fruit, because if it's dead, you can't eat it. So if you really think about this notion, it just means you put yourself on a different spot in the food chain. You refuse to become food to others, and you start becoming the next higher order predator. And then, if you think such a machine, what it does to you, when we talk about sympathetic links that it lays to others, it basically helps you achieve everything you want. Let's assume you have a colleague at work, and a colleague starts to be a competitor, maybe in a very unfair way, because you don't even want to compete. Put this person on a vampire machine and feed it into your career. Or another good example of human to human energy sucking is heartbreak. You have a crush on someone, which very often will be maybe rather because you didn't dare approaching, or someone played a game with you. Anyhow, you're in a state of heartbreak. Heartbreak means nothing, that you lost dramatic amounts of energy. Now take a vampire machine and suck the energy out that you invest in the other. I mean, you tried it, right? How was it?
Amazing, amazing. Definitely done. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, like that person got married. Okay, who cares? Yeah, it was hilarious actually. How quick, because that was something that even psychologically, the idea of having your own emotions not be grounded due to something exterior outside of yourself, that box
Right.
gave me that lesson through that whole situation. And then it was like, dude, why would you ever worry about what anyone else has to think about you or anything like that? And even if it's not just a relationship, but just even friendships and stuff, like anything that you feel like you've been kind of cheapskated from and all that. Well, instead of living with this resentment in you, flip on the switch, may get yourself back, and then you won't even be worried about it, not even to hold hate in your heart anymore, and then feel better.
Mm,
And yeah, that was something that you told me, and it was at the perfect time, and it was almost humorous, like how much better things got overnight. And I mean, it's been months, if not years, a year, and I have
mm,
zero. I mean, I think it was probably like a month and a half at
mm.
max. But even then, it was right when I flipped the switch. I already started to not give a shit. So, thank
Yeah, I
you.
found this, no worries, I found it the hard way myself out because I was in a comparable situation. And after flipping that switch, the girl with this happened got literally sick for an entire month because she was a very good psychic vampire and she lived from this. She basically had an uh, entire battalion of male supporters, right? And so I learned a lot about myself, but it was gone for me then in no time, after a week, right? And she was sick for a month because of the energetic backlash. And then she tried everything until today to get in touch again, which of course I don't want. But the point is that by doing this, you get energies back, and we always live in a kind of energy exchange process. Um, Charles Casimano wrote another book, Psionic Warfare, and in it he writes about psychic vampires and basically how to protect yourself against them. You find it all in this archive. And so basically, the idea is to close certain energetic connections or just letting in purified versions of energy, right? Like basically, if you then you can reverse it because